And one. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for being here. I'm super excited to have Erin Henry on with me tonight. So thank you for being here, Erin.
You bet. I'm excited.
Awesome. Me too. So if anybody's watching who doesn't know me, this is recordings going up later. My name's Cami Kennedy, diet recovery coach and confidence coach. And I have Erin here, and I'm going to let you introduce yourself because you have so many things behind your name. You're super well qualified to be talking today about nutrition. So give us a little brief introduction for yourself.
Yeah, for sure. I'm Erin Henry. I am the founder and owner of Misfit, transforming misfits into misfits. I like to say that I am the trifecta of wellness. I am a registered dietitian and nutritionist. I am a certified personal trainer, and I'm a certified wellness coach. So I really come at all of my clients with looking at themselves as beings and not just compartmentalizing themselves into, this is what I do for exercise, this is what I do for nutrition. I also feel like I really try to reach the audience of women, and in particular moms. I'm a mom myself. I've got a 10-year-old son, Hade, and an 8-year-old daughter, Elle. And the thing is, 73% of kids say that they learn to be healthy from their mom. So I feel like when I get to help moms' habits, I'm helping an entire generation to come. And that truly gives me goosebumps. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of my mission and my plight with Misfit. And I'm so excited to reach out to your ladies because I feel like you're kind of like the Billy Idol out there with your Diet Rebel yell, Cami.
Thank you.
So I'm glad to connect with you and your tribe.
Yeah, thank you so much. And just to give like a little introduction to what we're going over today. So we're doing this. I asked Erin to come on because we met at a business retreat in LA. This is like back in April. And she's just like a firecracker. She's just like all engines running. And I'm like, how do you do it? So she's going to share some stuff with us today. And I did this for the Better Method, which is my 8-week online nutrition and lifestyle course. So anybody that's tuning in from my end is probably in my course, or they can find a way to be in my course. I'm just teaching them that we don't need to diet. And I know that you're totally on board with that. And so this week we're talking about clean eating. We're talking about two different things, clean eating and if it fits your macros. Those are both of like the popular things right now that people are doing. So we're going to kind of dive into that and really get your perspective on what is clean eating, and then some tools on how to make that work, especially for busy moms. I know we have a bunch of moms, absolutely, and I love your perspective on that. So that's what they're going to get from this webinar today. So that's kind of what we'll do. And then I know you've got some stuff lined up for us at the end. So I definitely, you might have some giveaways or some stuff. So definitely hang out to the end and you'll announce that stuff. So that's what we got coming for you. So first off, I want to kind of ask about your story. You know, I'm coming from a place of balance, but I have an idea that you probably are like me and a lot of people in the fitness industry where there's a time in your life where there wasn't a lot of balance. So give me your backstory and then kind of let me know where you're at now in terms of finding that balance.
Yeah, and it's funny because I don't really share my story a lot, really, because I feel like so many people who are in this kind of expert space with nutrition and health almost have this like triumphant Rudy story where they come from the depths of despair and being, grossly overweight, or tragic health story where they can't hardly get out of bed. And I just don't have that, right? Mm-hmm. But I do feel like I've come in my journey, there's been some pivotal points that have led me to where I do feel like I have a level of balance in my life now. And really it even stems from when I was a kid, and I actually was a really skinny, frail, weak kid, and I hated it. And I remember going into my freshman year of high school, and I told my mom that I wanted to play sports and I wanted to be good at them. And she said, okay. And I come from a very supportive family. And so virtually every athletic camp or program that I I got to go to. And then she would drive me the 9 miles from my little country home into town to be the only female to lift weights and exercise with the football team at 5 o'clock in the morning. And I transformed. I physically transformed. My athleticism completely transformed, and I was completely hooked. And really kind of so much so that then as I really got into college, it became maybe even a little obsessive. And that looking back, I laugh, like the magazines with the fitness and figure girls, like Oxygen magazines and Muscle and Fitness, hers, they were kind of like my porn.
Yeah.
I was so obsessed with what these girls were doing in their shapes and how they were eating and how they were exercising, and it was totally fascinating to me. So then I actually started entering shows following college. And then you get this new obsession, because now it's not just your interest, but it's what you do. And if you're going to do well at these shows, it is consuming. So you are fixated on what you're going to eat and planning it and preparing it and packing it, and then adhering to a really rigorous workout schedule. And you got another full-time job, right? Mm-hmm. So that was not a healthy place to be. And then along came baby. And they say that babies change everything. And he was definitely no different in that my perspective changed. And actually, I was training for a show in the very first few weeks when I found out that I was pregnant. And I remember thinking, oh, thank God, I don't have to do this show. Like someone's pointing a gun to my head, right? It's ridiculous. So I was relieved. And then with this new perspective of them bringing this child into the world, I wanted to be an example. And I knew that I would always and wanted to have exercise as a part of my lifestyle and healthy foods as a part of my lifestyle. But this obsessiveness was not healthy. And that, my relationships and building my family and my friendships and even my perspective on how I wanted to fit and serve the greater world that I was in all changed. And so that kind of has led me to that place of balance, or what I think is balance now. But at the same time, I don't feel like, that I've arrived with my nutrition or health habits, that I'm on a journey. And I tell my clients that it's my goal for them and my goal for me that our habits are evolving, and that we have better habits tomorrow and 5 years and 10 years from now than we did yesterday. So I think it's really important that we get smarter as we go through time, and that we are paying attention to the information from what's out there, the science and strategy that's available to us, but that we also get smarter in what's here, and that we are not checking our brain at the door when the latest guru or diet plan comes along that's seemingly so successful, that we take. And even for me tonight, that I may share some elements that make sense to individuals, and they're like, yeah, like I can do that, and I think I can do that forever. Then let's go, let's bring it on. So start to incorporate those changes, and then as those become habit, you start taking on more and more. So that's kind of my perspective and where I am today, and where I hope to take some of your ladies tonight.
I love that. I love that because you said a couple of things that I'm loving is not the dieting, like we're not talking about dieting, but creating habits, and to look at it as long as we keep creating these new habits that are working for our lifestyle, then we're achieving success. So I like that new perspective versus the weight on the scale, measuring your food, being totally aggressive on workouts and all of that stuff, where a lot of the people, when they get into the fitness industry, like how I was when I started, you're really kind of obsessed with all of it. So I like what you said in terms of making habits versus following a meal plan or doing something because you think you have to do it, but making it fit into your lifestyle.
Yeah. And the thing too is it truly is an evolution, and not only in the changes that we gradually see happen in our life, but our lives change. So our lifestyles change, like even in that instance, from my perspective, I went from you know, being a married woman, but still very independent, and that I could make the food that I want and it was my schedule, then to having a family, like that changes. And your body changes too. So what may have worked for you 5 years ago isn't necessarily working for you now. So then you got to start learning and taking more changes on.
I love that. And I want to recognize anybody who's actually watching right now or watching the replay, because they're on that journey now where they're learning and they're accepting responsibility for their own body and their own journey and their own process, right? Like you and I might have opposing views, or we might agree and say, yes, this is it 100%, but we're still asking people to say, check in with yourself and make sure that's true for you, because there is no 100% rule for everybody, right? So I like that. And I want to get into the first question because I want to keep us on track. I know we could talk forever, but I want to keep us on track and make sure that we give them what they came here for, which is talking about clean eating. So the first thing I want to just kind of define clean eating for me, and why it's good, why somebody should be doing it, or even if we should be doing it.
Yeah, so the whole perspective of clean eating, I think, depends on a few different variables. And again, it depends on where one is in their journey. You know, for someone, and I understand when people first get started, they like and appreciate structure, right? So someone might really be identifying with, we'll say, paleo lifestyle. So they're trying to go grain-free and dairy-free. So clean eating for them are those principles. Someone else might be adhering to a macro schedule or a point system, you know, like with Weight Watchers. And so as long as they stay within those parameters, they feel like, and they are, you know, eating clean. For others, it might be that they don't eat sugar, they don't eat anything processed. The problem that I see is that this whole notion of clean eating can almost have a sense of morality or virtuosity about it that I don't love. Because especially when people are starting on their journeys, they can be very black and white. And I think that's a dangerous place to be, because there's all kinds of shades of gray when it comes to especially food. So for me, I like to think about it more like clean energy. You know, what are the habits that make me look and feel my best? And, you know, I call them like the big rocks, the things that really make a difference, because we can get wrapped up in the minutia of nutrition. I mean, I feel like every week someone asks me, Erin, should I not eat carrots because they're too high carb? And I'm like, Americans are not getting fat on eating too many carrots, you know, but these are the things that they focus on.
I did that. I did that. I didn't eat carrots or peas or apples because they had too much sugar. So
right. And then you're all carb depleted and you see that cheesecake over there and you're like, game on.
Yeah, exactly. That's so funny.
So, and you know, I know our friend Jill Coleman, she calls them DNCs, your daily nutritional commitments. So that's the thing. I think that's where people really need to start, is you inherently know, and certainly with some guidance from a coach, of those elements for you based on what you're currently doing now and what's not working for you, needs to be the next step. And so, you know, they say if you have more than, you know, 3 or 5 priorities, then you have none, right? So I'll always have my clients pick out maybe 3 areas of focus that you've only got so much mental and physical reserve to focus on this stuff. I mean, habit change is hard. So really dive down on, okay, these elements I really feel will make a difference in how I look and feel. And if that's what I really put my efforts and focus on, that's where it needs to be. So again, it's a much more, general answer. But if you want to even get specific, like for me, that was my dog, if you heard a little scutter in here. For me, you know, I never allow myself to go too long without eating. I never let my hunger level get too high. I have a pretty specific amount of starch that I eat in almost all my meals. I eat protein at all my meals. I eat vegetables at all my meals. So those are just like a few elements, and I wouldn't call them rules, but they are enough of a habit, of a commitment, that I do take pause if I divert from them. I might feel a little bit off, I just know that my body isn't going to quite respond the same way. I limit my sugar, I limit my alcohol, those are a couple of others. So again, not rules, but things that I've incorporated over the span of my career and life that just feel right to me.
Mm-hmm. And I like that. I use a similar thing that I call if it fits your lifestyle goals, number one. So like instead of if it fits your macros, if it fits your lifestyle goals. So we have some people that maybe want wine. So those are going to be one of those things where it's like, if you want wine, we'll integrate that in. For me, mine's frozen yogurt. I'll integrate that in. But if I'm trying to get leaned out, then I'm not going to have as much frozen yogurt, right? It's that time in our life that we have different goals and different things we're trying to achieve. But I also love where you started, which is the energy thing. That really, really resonated with me. I was like, yeah, right? If you're not going to feel good after eating something, then you'll start to be in tune with that. And you're like, well, I could have it, right? There's no rule against not having it. But if I'm not going to feel great after having it, then is it really worth it to do it?
Yeah. And that relates really to your physical and your mental energy too. That if you are kind of starting out and if you feel like this is going to give you guilt and remorse, then that's something to consider too, besides whatever physique changes you think you will or will not have.
Right. I like that. So in speaking of, I love how you said like there's black and white. Like a lot of people go on a diet and they're black and white and they're like, I'm eating healthy now. And they go out with their friends and their friends just are eating whatever, right? So my question here in terms of the whole clean eating and having these goals is, how would somebody navigate a situation where they're trying to be good, or they're trying to eat clean, or whatever it is they're trying to do, but navigating that in social situations? Do you have any tips for people whenever they're either with a family, they're in a household with a family where they're sharing meals, or they're out to eat with friends and they're feeling that pressure on, well, what kind of decisions and what kind of choices do I make when I'm out?
Yeah. In fact, I had a call with some coaching members last night, and that was a topic that came up. And what I really encouraged them to do, and I encourage all of my clients, when you are faced with situations that are outside of your routine, especially as you're starting on the journey, I think it's really important to establish your plan. And so, like, for instance, oftentimes I'll have someone in my office in a coaching session and they're like, hey, I'm going out of town this weekend. And I'm like, okay, let's talk this out. And we'll talk about what are their good enoughs, right? So you kind of have where you've been in the past with your journey and where you're trying to get away from and what your ideal is. But when we're on vacation, when we're sometimes just in these just life-giving situations, time with friends, times with family, what will we feel comfortable with and not feeling deprived, but also not feeling like we're falling off the wagon? So, for instance, maybe you are someone who, when they go out, drinks alcohol without abandon. Okay. So maybe, and again, I make suggestions, but it's up to my client to decide, this is the road I'm taking. So maybe it's that they decided, you know what, I'm going to drink. It's going to be the way it is. But I'm going to limit to 2 beverages while I'm out. Perfect. And even just articulating that, so in this case to me, or writing it down, is really powerful. And it's not to say that sometimes you might not diverge from the path, but you'll at least take pause, and it will be worth it in a sense. Like, you thought about it and you're still going for it, and that's fine. But as long as you've made that plan, I think that you can be a lot more mindful of the situation. So maybe it's that you're going to go out and eat with friends. Well, go ahead, take a look at the online menu, consider what you would have normally done in the past, and what you're willing, are you going to pack your protein shake while they're having Mexican food? Like, no, you're not. So let's think about what are your options that you feel comfortable with that still are better than what they were when you started this journey. So those are kind of the things that I really like, the exercise I like people to go through when they're diverging from their normal routine.
I like that a lot. And I think this word mindfulness, I never liked it, because I was like, what is that? It sounds like people doing yoga. I don't even know what that is. I never understood it, right? But that's exactly what we're doing, is just being aware of the decision instead of just letting the situation take over us. So there's been times where there's a carton of donuts and there's 6 of them. And I'm like, do I want donuts today? Right? And that's the conversation I have with myself. And I think, do I want donuts today? And I think a lot of times people feel like the donuts are making, I have to have one if it's there. I'm to the point now where I've practiced the mindfulness, if we want to call it that I can look at the donuts and I can be like, do I really want one? Or do I just want one because it's in front of me? And if it's the fact that I don't really want one, then I'll be like, no, I'm good. But there are times when I really want the donut, and I'll take a bite out of each donut and I'll be like, okay, those are good, but I'll throw the rest away. So I like the decision process of it, because there's also been times where I ate 4 donuts, and looking back, I was present during the decision process and I was like, screw it, I'm eating 4 donuts. But then at the end, I was like, you know what? I did it. I made the decision. I got to live with it, and let's move on, right? Instead of feeling guilty about the decision that was made.
Yeah. So when people have certain cravings, there's a little acronym that I'll throw out to kind of help walk them through that mindfulness process. And it's the acronym of CHEAT. Okay. Ooh. So you start out with C. So if it's that, you're looking at this box of cookies or donuts, in the afternoon, considering your options here. And the first question you have to ask yourself is, okay, because you want this to be a learning experience, because you're trying to prevent cravings from happening in the future too, right? Mm-hmm. So are you carb and or calorie depleted? So is it that? Because, our willpower is really high early in the day. And so sometimes it actually works to our detriment that we're hardly eating anything for breakfast and we're being very virtuous with our salad at lunch. And then come 3 o'clock, we want to eat our left arm. So if we haven't eaten enough and haven't eaten enough carbs or whatever the case might be, then that actually might be the reason for the craving. So we can have a learning experience there and say, you know what, I know I need to eat more earlier in the day. Okay, so that's C. H is habit. So is it just that come 3 o'clock, whether you're hungry or really even having a craving, that you go over to the admin's desk and grab, 12 M&Ms every day? Okay, well then let's talk about the routines and environments that we can tweak to where perhaps we replace that habit with something else, okay? E is emotion. So are we eating to fill some kind of emotional void? Are we bored? Are we lonely? Are we maybe even tired? Okay, let's work on those issues. A, is there an alternative? So, for instance, in the case of cookies or donut or whatever, could it be that, half a protein bar would truly fill your void of maybe something a little sweet or something chewy, that would be a better alternative in making you feel more comfortable with adhering to your commitments and yet still feel satisfied that you got your craving met. Okay, so that's A. And then T, I call the 20-minute rule. That it's a nice thing to practice, and I find even myself being much more successful with this, is that I give myself 20 minutes and say, I promise you, Erin, you can have that thing in 20 minutes if you still want it. And 9 times out of 10, the environment maybe changes to where it's not even, maybe even really there anymore. Or my hunger has cut my satisfaction to my hunger has caught up. So that's another thing too. Sometimes we get hungry enough that it takes a while for our satiety to kick in. You give it just a few extra minutes and then you're like, oh, actually, I think I'm good, right? And again, it just kind of builds in that mindfulness of, I'm going to take pause here. I don't have to have immediate gratification. It's a good discipline to practice. And then, if you follow all of those steps, I think you have courted the cookie enough and you can just go to bed with the cookie.
I love that. So I've been given permission as long as I do these steps to have the cookie. I like that. I like that a lot. And I like the 20-minute thing too, because a lot of the times, especially like a lot of people aren't drinking enough water. So a lot of times you have a glass of water instead, 20 minutes later, you're like, I'm not hungry. I was just really thirsty. So that 20-minute rule is pretty cool too. And then you're like, I found something better, or and I'll use that sometimes whenever I'm like, you know what, if you still want the donut or you still want the cookie, after you have your protein shake, you can have it. But going back to habits, one of my habits is to have 2 meal replacement protein shakes a day. And if I work those in, then I don't have as many cravings. And I can notice if I don't have 2 shakes a day. I'm like, oh, I'm craving more carbs. Oh, I'm wanting more stuff. So that's become one of my things to help me with cravings is, okay, you're having a craving right now. Check in. Did you have your second protein shake? And usually the answer is no. And then at that point, I have a decision. Do I drink my shake or do I just eat the donut? And usually I go to the protein shake side. But of course, sometimes I'm like, screw it. We're just doing the donut today. So I like that. I like that acronym. Do you have that somewhere, like on a blog post or something?
Funny enough, I really don't. So I think we need to have one, right?
We need to have this as a resource for people. I think it's phenomenal. So yeah. We'll figure out a way to get it to the people, even if it's just like something little cute, little handout or something. Because I love that as a practice. And it's fun to go through it and see. And another one for me, and I think a lot of women, is sleep makes me crave carbs like no other. If I don't get enough sleep, I will be wanting all the carbs. Absolutely, 100%. So that whole emotional carbohydrate thing definitely is one of the things that resonates with me.
Sleep actually, like that is a subject all on its own. We talk about that a lot in the various programming that I do. And there's tons of researching surrounding not only are your hunger hormones literally tested in blood altered when you are sleep deprived, but there's a whole host of things going on behind the scenes that it's not just you. Like there's a lot of science relating the importance of sleep to our physique efforts. And so really, I even say sleep trumps exercise. It's really important. Now, that's not to say that you stay up watching the late night show and then you get to skip your workout in the morning. But really, if you are burning both ends, you've got to take care of yourself. And until you can find a more moderate lifestyle, you really do need to get some rest. Yeah. Anyway, I diverge.
So I'm thinking that probably some people are like, give me the secret. Like, what do I do? And like, I've been on this health journey and they're seeing progress, right? And they're doing the thing, but they're just kind of like, and I know I was like this in the beginning, I want more results. I want more progress, or I've hit a plateau. What's your advice for people like that? They're on here, they're listening, or they're watching the replay and they're just like, okay, yeah, but what's the secret? Like, come on, I'm trying to reach my goals here. I know we talk about it as a process, but how can you talk somebody off a ledge? Because they might be like, well, I'm just going to go do this diet over here because it guarantees I'm going to lose weight in 6 weeks. So let's talk to those people right now.
Yeah. So I really do deter anyone from doing a quick weight loss scheme. And for those people, I mean, I think one of the kind of the best illustrations is just when you do so, that loss of muscle mass, which they're so trying to build in the gym. So for instance, I give this example of my mom all the time because my joke with this story is that she's a non-paying client, so I can do this. But I felt like that my mom was on a perpetual diet her whole life, trying to lose the same 5 pounds over and over again. And I think people can relate to that. Every time she lost weight, she lost some body fat, probably, but she inevitably lost some muscle mass too. It's hard to keep on muscle mass actually while you're losing weight. So, and the crazier the scheme, the more you lose. So as she's losing her muscle mass, she is screwing her metabolism because, there's a lot of different things at play that go into your metabolic rate, but the number one controllable element is your muscle mass. You can't control your age, can't control your genetics, can't control your gender, all those things. So you're really wanting to keep hold of that muscle mass. So then every time it would be harder for her to maintain her weight loss because that muscle mass is gone. And then of course, when she's gaining it back, she's not gaining it in muscle mass, she's gaining it in body fat. And so that cycle continues. So I use a story like that in some capacity to get people to understand that you want to go at this slow. And then also true is that, you want to look at that sustainability, because I think, and if you're a client of mine, you want to have fat loss forever,
yes.
Right?
Amen.
And you're not a client of mine if you're coming in wanting to lose a few lbs for your vacation. Like, that's not my client. Mm-hmm. So you're in this for the long haul. You're in this for the work and the heavy lifting. So that's definitely an element to consider. When it comes to someone truly hitting a plateau, which can happen for sure, if you're gradually making changes, that helps in prevent that plateau. But if I look at someone's nutritional patterns and things are really looking pretty well, then there's some health and lifestyle factors that we can look at that often will come into play. So what's going on behind the scenes with adrenals and thyroid hormone and sex hormones and that kind of balance? What is their sleep like? That may be a lifestyle factor that when we get that in check, you start to see things come down again. And of course, what are their exercise habits? And sometimes it's not even a matter of exercising more, but that if truly their adrenals are shot and they're not sleeping the way they should be, they actually may need to exercise less to get things in balance. So kind of lifestyle and medical factors can come into play. Someone really is struggling yet doing all the right things.
Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes, at least for me in the beginning, it may not be everybody watching, but I think we just feel like in the beginning, we are putting so much energy towards it. We're like, well, I changed this and I've been working out for 3 months or 6 months or 9 months. And you just feel like you did so much. So you just see so many results. And that's how I felt in the beginning. So speak to that a little bit in terms of how long does it really take to see what you want to see?
Well, and that's the thing. I say this a lot, is that when someone comes into my office or on a phone call with me, it's usually like 40 years worth of habit that have gotten them where they are. And so that doesn't just change overnight. Like, it takes concentrated effort and energy and time to reverse some of those habits that they've laid as their foundation. Mm-hmm. So it's not a very sexy answer, but they have to understand that it took them a while to get here. It's going to take them a little while to get out.
Yeah. And really, like, the alternative is you give up and you just keep living your crappy lifestyle and feeling like crap. So if you want to do that, feel free. That's right. An option.
And that's an excellent point, because I really do encourage people, if you're going to be on this in the long haul, you've really got to enjoy your journey. So, like, for instance, sometimes so much mental and physical reserves are going in because they're hating every minute. Like, I've got clients who are like, oh my God, I hate to run. And I'm like, then you should stop running. Like, there are 10 million different ways to get in shape that don't revolve around getting on your treadmill in the basement with no TV.
Yeah, I would hate that.
Right. So, like, what are those activities that you look forward to going that give you a little bit of life force and energy? Like, let's do those things. And like, your food shouldn't suck. So if you want to make changes from where you're eating now, but, like my husband said, when I went back to school to be a dietitian, he's like, okay, we're not eating powder for all our meals. I'm like, I am aware. So you need to have good experiences with your meals or you are not going to stay on it. And then really focus on how you feel during the journey. Like, okay, maybe the scale isn't moving quite yet, but are you sleeping better? Is your energy levels, better during the day? Like, what kind of example of this is a priority to you like it was to me? Like, what example are you giving your kids? Is that paying off? So think about all of those a little bit more intangibles than just the weight on the scale.
I love that. And I want to go back to speaking about muscle too, because some people, hopefully if they're working with me, they're not afraid of muscle, but I still have women who are afraid of muscle and I keep hearing it and they don't want to get big and they don't want to get bulky. So when I talk about gaining muscle, they're like backing away from me. Like, I don't want to talk about this. So so explain to me, I want to know, because when I look at you, you have a lean toned physique. I, on the other hand, I do carry a lot more muscle. So I think when they look at me, they're like, I'm going to get like you. I'm like, no, we all have different body types. So talk to me about gaining lean muscle, but not getting big. How do we do that?
Yeah. So oftentimes what really happens, and you're exactly right. Like we all come in different shapes and sizes. And that's why, a certain macro plan or whatever might work for someone, but not give the same results or the desired results for someone else. So it's definitely something to consider. And I always want my clients, when I say don't check your head at the door, but also go into this journey as like an experiment, that you are willing and going to take on and try some things and hopefully even document some things along the way so you can make tweaks in your journey as you need. What often happens with women, so say in the instance with exercise, and there's actually research behind this, that if women aren't logging their intake, whereas when men exercise, they'll burn those extra calories and boom, the weight starts dropping. They go into a calorie deficit with that exercise and they start losing the weight. With women, they truly have a greater physiological need to replace the calories that they lost through exercise. So sometimes women are exercising and they're actually eating more. And so they end up getting bigger. So that is one thing to consider, especially with women and exercise. But even different exercise plans besides different kind of food intakes and composition of your meal and overall daily intake, exercise makes it different. Some women are going to be able to lift really heavy and really aggressively and not bulk up, but some women do bulk a little bit more than others. So you just have to go into that experimental mindset that you may have to tweak your programming, but even still, absolutely. If you're someone who is going to build muscle easily, then you're also someone who's going to maintain it a little easier too. So that's a good thing. And you can focus on really trying to lose your body fat. Maybe you're not necessarily going to build more and more muscle, but work to keep your metabolism strong and tear off that body fat to where you have the definition that you want and you don't feel like the blob anymore.
Yes. I love that. I think that's so important. And everybody has a different body type too. Like I'm a meso endo, so I can gain muscle and fat very easily. Either one of those I can gain very easily. So it's a good on the muscular side. But then the same thing, if I take a couple weeks off or if I go off track on eating for a little bit, I'll gain that body fat back. But the cool thing is, since I know my body, I know exactly what to do to get it back down too, because I have been experimenting with it. So the one thing I use if I'm looking to lean out a little more is fasted cardio. And it doesn't need to be aggressive. It doesn't need a lot. It's just cardio without eating. I'll usually have some BCAAs and I'll have some L-carnitine just to make sure that I am preserving my muscle when I do my fasted cardio. But like 20 minutes a day, 3-4 times a week, it'll start to take the fat off. So I think experimenting is good, but got to a point where I couldn't stand fasted cardio. So I had to find something else. You know, if you're not liking it, then it's not going to work for you no matter what. So let's talk about that a little bit. So, and I'm kind of being selfish here because I'm in a little mode where I was super wanting to work out. I was good. And I had a workout partner and it was phenomenal. And my workout partner had surgery. So she's going to be out for a couple of weeks, but I'm going to tell you, now that I have a workout partner, I'm like, dang, it's hard for me to go to the gym. So talk to me about like people who are either feeling not motivated or they just haven't found, because let's be honest, if you're not in really good shape, it sucks starting to work out again. So what would you say to somebody that's like, man, I have to start doing this, but I feel so out of shape. I don't even know where to start. What do I do?
Yeah. So that's exactly what happens in so many situations. And what people do is, you know, they maybe haven't been with consistent exercise for really a matter of years. And then when they go back to it, they're doing what they left off with, you know, maybe when they were 18, who knows? Guys do that all the time.
Yeah.
And so that is going to stink. Like, that's not fun. So I think that it's really important to create motivating environments for you. So if you feel defeated before you even start your workout, then that's not the right workout for you. Let's, you know, dial it back a notch, turbo, right? You know,
yeah, totally.
Yeah. So, okay, let's scale it back. If you're looking at this and you're like, man, no, not happening today. Okay, let's go into doing half of that workout today. How do you feel about that? And then maybe you get going and you end up doing 3/4 worth of it, but at least you got half. And that's a start. And that's the thing, is we've got to focus on progress, not perfection, right?
Yes.
Okay. So that is an element of motivation. Yes, you need to think about what circumstances are best for you in your workout environment. So you're a social creature, Cammie. You like having your workout partner. Some individuals like attending class. They like the scheduledness of it. They like the camaraderie of it. All right, then that's where we need to investigate for your fitness efforts. Others really don't. They're lone rangers. Okay, then you should not be in Zumba, you know?
Yeah.
So those are all things that we need to consider. Even from a perspective of, okay, early morning. All right. Maybe early morning is when you feel like you have to get it done, but that's not terribly motivating for you. Well, so let's at least set up your environment to make you more successful. So let's maybe set up the alarm at the other side of the room. Let's make sure that your workout clothes are packed. And again, let's not make it a workout that you're loathing, but something that you're at least halfway looking forward to. So just think about those elements that are personal to you. Find a way intrinsically to be motivated about this experience that you're going to embark on.
Mm-hmm. And I love too this word motivation. I think people think about this a lot when they're looking at fitness people like you and I, or nutrition people. They're like, you're just so motivated all the time. And it's like, well, I think it's that we've created habits and we've just been like, you know what? It's been a week since I've been at the gym. I need to go back because it feels weird not doing it. And I don't always want to go. In fact, most of the time I don't want to go. But just going is going to make me feel so much better, even if I only do, like you said, half of the workout. Because usually you end up doing more because in that first 10 minutes, you're like, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this. And then you start sweating and you're like, I love this. I feel so great. And you just start to like snowball effect. And you're like, why did I loathe this so much? It feels great. I love working out. So I think it's a habit thing. Can you dive a little bit more? Because you keep talking about habits. So dive into that a little bit more about creating those habits of stuff that might be hard in the beginning, but becomes easy through habit over time.
Yeah, because essentially what you're wanting to get to is something that isn't taking your mental energy. It's just something that you do. I mean, truly, I have been working out and lifting weights since I was 15 years old. I honestly can't ever remember a time even outside of illness that I have not exercised. It's just something that I do. And that's really where you're wanting to get to, but it takes mental effort in the beginning, because in the beginning, you're already filling your time. You have the same 24 hours. You're filling it with something already. And now you're going to fill it with something else. So you're going to have to take something away, usually is the case, or extend your waking hours or something of the sort. So how are you going to establish that? With exercise, there's lots of research stating that those who exercise first thing in the morning are the most consistent, because your energy levels are typically higher and there aren't other people crashing in on that time. That time is truly for you. No one's calling you at 5 a.m. to go to a meeting. You're not helping your kids with their homework, none of that stuff. So that's one element of habit as it relates to exercise. You're really trying to just set up your environments in a way that support whatever it is. And again, I really suggest that people only start out with 2 or 3 focuses at a time. And that is where everything is designed to shift around to make that happen in your life. Mm-hmm. So, maybe it's a matter of you're going to start eating breakfast in the morning and that really hasn't been your bag. Okay, well, there's also studies to show that typically people who are hungry for breakfast often are eating too much, too late in the evening hours before. So that's an element to consider. So you're trying to work with your coaches, hopefully in these instances, to figure out all the different environmental changes that can go about supporting just your 2 or 3 focus areas for habit change.
I love that. And I think that's a huge takeaway for anybody starting out when they're like kind of overwhelmed. Like, what do I do? I'm going to get a gym membership. I'm going to go 7 days a week. It's like, that's too much. Just do, like you said, pick 3 things to focus on. It may be getting 8 hours of sleep, drinking water, and eating breakfast. And that's it. Keep it simple. I like that so much, instead of taking in all of that info and trying to do it all and getting overwhelmed. And obviously that's not going to last.
Yeah. They crash and burn.
Yeah. So I forgot to ask you this question and I just looked at it. I want to talk about meal prep. So in terms of clean eating, do we have to prep our meals? I'm not a fan of it. I used to do it. I know a lot of people do it still, but I just can't do it. So tell me your take on meal prepping, on if we can eat a clean, healthy lifestyle with meal prepping or without meal prepping, or if we have to do partially.
Yeah, you don't necessarily have to do a lot of meal prepping. When you have more control over the ingredients that are going into your food, you're generally going to have more success. But again, I feel like I sound like a broken record. It's kind of where about you are in your journey. That might be fine tuning for someone down the line. And that there's a lot of room for someone to make improvement based on where they are now, just in the choices that they make to just eat cleaner than they are now. So someone's coming from a fast food diet of French fries and burgers, we can make a lot of changes to help them be successful before they have to start totally revamping their lifestyle to where they cook every meal at home. Yeah. The other thing is there really is, there's a lot more services available to us and growing all the time for healthy meal options. Here locally, there's a lot of kind of mom and pop shops.
Tell us where you're from.
I live in the Midwest. I'm a burb of Kansas City called Overland Park.
Okay.
But there are little pops, and truly they're not marketed. And because I'm in the profession that I am, that's the only way in some cases I would know that they exist. But I know here locally there's even a paleo shop that you go in, you pick up your meals that you've selected online and take them home. There's a few even delivery services that are all geared towards healthy lifestyles, clean eating ingredients. But even more nationwide, now this doesn't totally take out the prep, but it does take out a huge element, which is kind of the planning and grocery shopping surrounding it. That like the Blue Aprons and the Hello Freshes that are out there, and that might be a little regional. I'm not quite sure.
I've heard of both of them. I've heard of both of them, and we're in North Carolina, so I think it probably is nationwide-ish.
Yeah, I think so, because I think HelloFresh is actually based out of New York. So they are healthy ingredient delivery, where your recipes are sent to you, the food that you need to prepare them is delivered to you. And I have several clients and even colleagues, and I've made my order, I just haven't received it yet. That can be of service to someone who's kind of making the transition, maybe isn't really a cook, but wants to have more control over the ingredients that are going into their food. And services like that are nice too, because I'm also an advocate of the meal planning and preparation, only because it helps build your skills and arsenal. So, there may come a point in your life where some of these convenient services become more of a luxury, maybe because of financial changes in your lifestyle. So then what are you going to do? If you move, if you even go on vacation, sometimes people can be thrown off a little bit more when they're out of their routine if they don't have the skill set to make up some healthy, simple meals. So that's an element to consider too, when we talk about this topic.
I love that. And I actually am looking here locally. I haven't done it yet, but I'm looking locally for somebody who does meal prep, because I learned, I'm like, I'm going to meal prep and I'll buy all this stuff and it sits in my fridge and I throw it away. So I'm literally wasting money because I'm just too lazy to meal prep, because I did it for so long that I'm burnt out on it. But I will grab like an organic rotisserie chicken. I'll go to Whole Foods and get just stuff off of their salad bar. I'm paying a little extra, but I'm not throwing it away, right? I'm able to actually eat it. So I found that works for me, and it's pretty quick and easy. So that's what I've been doing recently. But I'd like to get into those meal preps. In Texas, they have one called My Fit Foods. And I know it's in California too. I wish it was. Yes, I wish it was here. I went and talked to the guys. I was like, I want to franchise one of these. I want this food, because it's just coolers and coolers, and it shows you the macros. It shows you everything. It's already done. So I'll have to update people locally. And if I find out, because I don't have anything locally now that I know of. Well, I'm about to close this down. So I want to open it up to you. If you have anything you want to add that we didn't talk about, that you were like, I need them to know this.
Gosh, we covered a lot of stuff tonight.
We really went crazy. I mean, we give people a total lifestyle change, and I think it's awesome.
So I will share, I guess, that I am the original misfit. And so my website was really where you can find my email and my Facebook. So I'll keep it simple that way. And it is miss-fit.com. So I keep a blog. Love for people to join my newsletters. In fact, I know on my Facebook page right now, if you sign up for my newsletter, you get 5 wrenches for your toolbox to put the screws to sugar cravings. So that can be something for your arsenal as well. And again, even within that document, I like to talk about how even moderating your sugar intake, and if one is really wanting to kind of go through even a detox period, you can totally treat as a bit of an experiment, and it makes the process just go a whole lot easier. Everything's an experiment with me. I feel like that what we resist tends to persist. So I'm always of an abundance mentality. But no, this has been fun, Cammie. I'm so glad that you had me on, and it's always good to see your smiling face.
I know. I just want to hug you through the computer, and I can't, but hopefully we'll see each other at another event. And then if anybody has questions, you guys, this is going to go on YouTube, so you can pop in the comments, or you can find us on either of our websites, cammiecounty.com or missfit.com. Yes, with a hyphen?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. I love you, dear. Thank you so much for being on. You are awesome. And I know that you gave so much great info to these ladies, and I know they're super thankful. So thank you so much.
My pleasure. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Bye.